Realme is on a mission to disrupt Xiaomi's dominance in the budget segment. We recently saw this with the Realme 2 Pro, and now with the C1, it aims to raise the bar in the entry-level segment too. Now the big appeal of the C1 is the relatively powerful Snapdragon 450 octa-core SoC, the big display and a big battery, which is relatively unmatched at a price of 6,999 rupees. But do the specs translate to really good performance? Let's find out. The plastic body of the C1 makes it light and easy to carry around, and the sides are thick enough to offer a comfortable grip without making the phone look fat. The matte finish of the side frame doesn't pick up fingerprints, but the laminated back and the display does. The back panel also picks up scuffs quite easily if you're not careful. The C1 has a massive 6.2-inch HD Plus display which produces pleasing and saturated colors. The display also gets quite bright, which makes it fairly legible under sunlight. It uses Corning Gorilla Glass and there's a screen guard provided in the box, which should offer a good degree of protection. The notch display cutout isn't very deep or wide, which is probably why there's no option to hide it. There's a single SIM slot on the side which can accommodate 2 nano SIM cards and a micro SD card. The C1 doesn't have a fingerprint sensor, but you do get face unlock. It works fairly well under good light, and you can make it more secure by forcing it to check if your eyes are open. In low light, the display lights up when the light is inadequate, and although it takes a little longer, it works. The Realme C1 is only available in one variant at the moment, with 2GB of RAM and 16GB of storage. Now, the internal storage runs out pretty quickly as you only actually get around 8.5GB of actual usable space. Now, the C1 doesn't have any option to use a micro SD card as part of the internal storage, so you'll have to move stuff over manually. Now, most of the apps that we had installed like Facebook, Instagram, or even some of the games didn't really have the option to be moved to the SD card. The Realme C1 runs ColorOS 5.1, which is based on Android 8.1 Oreo. Our unit wasn't quite up to date with the security patch as it was still August 5th, but we're hoping Realme fixes this soon. The custom OS offers plenty of gestures and shortcuts which we've seen before on Realme and Oppo smartphones. GameSpace lets you automatically enable Do Not Disturb and also gives you the option to disable auto brightness when gaming. Now, the Realme C1 isn't the speediest phone around, which could have something to do with the amount of RAM. The system uses about 1GB of RAM, while about 500MB is used by apps running in the background, which leaves you with roughly 500MB of free RAM for multitasking and other things. Due to this, sometimes even waking up the phone takes a good second or two. However, once you're in the app, it's not that bad. We didn't face any issues browsing the internet using Chrome, and multitasking is still somewhat manageable. The phone runs fairly cool, but it does get a bit warm when gaming. Heavy titles like PUBG run, but gameplay is a bit sluggish even at the lowest graphics settings. The display's touch response also feels a bit iffy now and then, but it's not a big problem overall. The single speaker is quite loud, but the audio quality isn't very good. The Realme C1 has a 13MP main sensor and a second 2MP depth sensor. The latter is used for gauging depth when shooting in portrait mode. Edge detection is decent, but the final image lacks good colors. With regular shots in daylight, the C1 captures a decent amount of detail in distant objects, but we also notice some chromatic aberration. Auto HDR is present, but the end results isn't always very effective. We have the standard set of shooting modes like panorama, time-lapse and stickers, which is fun to play with. Noise is handled well under low light, but details and focusing speeds take a hit. Under sufficient artificial lighting, we did end up with some very usable macros, but overall, landscapes tend to look a bit soft. The 5MP front sensor captures good colors in selfies when lighting is favorable, but at night, we encountered quite a bit of chroma noise in our images. Video recording tops out at 1080p, but the output doesn't have good sharpness and there's no electronic stabilization. Battery life is the Realme C1's biggest strength. The non-removable 4230 mAh battery easily managed to last about a day and a half and more at times if our usage was limited. In a battery drain test, we managed to run a 720p video file on a loop for a total of 20 hours and 23 minutes, which is very good. The phone doesn't support fast charging, but with a high wattage adapter, we were able to fully charge it in about 2.5 to 3 hours. At 6,999 rupees, the Realme C1 offers plenty of value as it's hard to find another smartphone that matches the performance and features offered by it. Keep in mind that the pricing is for the festive season only, so there is a chance of it increasing by 1,000 rupees or even more later on. The Realme C1 has a lot going for it, like the excellent battery life, relatively powerful SoC, a big display and stylish looks. The 2GB of RAM does limit its multitasking capability a bit, and we would have liked an option with more internal storage. Overall, the Realme C1 won't really disappoint you, especially at this price, provided you're lucky enough to snag one during the sale. So thanks for watching our review, and for all things tech, log on to gadgets360.com.